Caitlin Clark's arrival gave the WNBA its brightest spotlight in years, soaring viewership, packed arenas, and real talk of expansion. But just as fans and sponsors leaned in, the players' union leaned out. The strike threat didn't come from desperation, it came from confidence. That confidence, however, may have overlooked the foundation it stood on. Beneath the headlines and highlights, the WNBA remains a financial puzzle, subsidized, strained, and still searching for profitability. Calls for NBA-style revenue sharing ignore the cold math.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The NBA earns over $11 billion a year. The WNBA hovers near $200 million and loses money doing it. In that context, the union's push for equal share feels detached, if not dangerous. Fans who rallied around the league now question whether the fight is grounded in principle or fantasy. Online sentiment is shifting, and sponsors are taking note. The leadership behind the union, some with ties to rival leagues, faces criticism for steering negotiations toward a cliff. This isn't just about paychecks, it's about perception. If the public sees players as entitled rather than empowered, the WNBA's hard-won progress could vanish overnight. The league finally earned the world's attention. The challenge now is not to squander it. You're watching history move in reverse. After one of the biggest years the WNBA has ever seen, the league finds itself on the edge of a cliff. Not because of poor performance, but because of success. Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner who was once celebrated for elevating visibility and securing sponsorships, is now at the center of a bitter labor standoff. Her office, once the symbol of progress, is now ground zero for heated negotiations with a players' union that's threatening to shut the whole thing down. The league finally got what it wanted: record ratings, sold-out arenas, and a massive influx of corporate dollars. But now that the money's coming in, the players want their cut. Not a bonus, not a raise. They want revenue sharing, a 50-50 split like the NBA. The problem? The WNBA isn't the NBA. Not in revenue, not in profits, and definitely not in financial footing. And right in the middle of it all is Caitlin Clark, the breakout star of the year, the reason many new fans even know what the WNBA is. Her games broke viewing records. Her jersey sold out in hours, and every arena she steps in suddenly turns into a sold-out tour stop. She didn't just elevate the Indiana Fever. She became the face of a league revival. But Caitlin isn't the one leading the labor charge. In fact, her silence speaks volumes. While veteran players push for sweeping structural changes, Clark represents something else: proof that star power sells, and maybe the league doesn't need confrontation to grow. Some insiders say she's being used as a pawn in this larger power struggle, while others believe she's the bargaining chip owners are counting on to outlast a strike. The irony? Clark's popularity is fueling both sides. Her jersey flies off shelves, and fans tune in for her every move, which boosts the league's value. The players point to that and say, "See, we're finally bringing in money. Give us our share." But owners are quick to note that money isn't profit. The WNBA still loses millions every year. Clark might sell out games, but the league's books are still in the red. That disconnect between perceived value and actual revenue is where this whole conflict brews. The players see rising popularity and want that momentum to translate into better pay and more power. The owners? They see expenses that still outweigh income and worry that one wrong move could collapse the whole thing. Take someone like Kelsey Mitchell, a solid star who's been grinding in the league for years. She's one of many players who've spoken up, demanding more than just applause and headlines. For years, these athletes have watched their NBA counterparts rake in millions, while they squeeze in second jobs overseas just to make ends meet. The comparison is brutal, and it's fueling a kind of quiet rage that's now boiling over. Kelsey and others argue that the owners have had decades to build the league. Now that the product is finally catching on, the people actually performing on the court want to stop waiting. To them, it's not just about money. It's about respect. But the timing of the demands is what's sparking controversy, especially when the business still isn't stable. Angel Reese, another breakout star with a massive following, has echoed the sentiment. She's part of a new generation of players who aren't just athletes, they're brands. Social media, endorsements, college stardom, they bring built-in audiences to the league. But with that comes expectations. They don't want to be treated like grateful beneficiaries of a struggling league. They want a seat at the table now. In her interviews, Reese has made it clear, this isn't just about collective bargaining. It's about being seen as professionals who carry the weight of the league's public image. The problem? The league's financial documents don't support that kind of compensation model. Not yet. And then there's Paige Bueckers, who was recently suspended from Team USA after a reported clash with Lawson. That suspension only added to the growing list of internal dramas that are now overshadowing on-court action. With stars like Paige entangled in off-court controversy, it's harder for the league to focus on unity. The optics are getting worse by the day. Fans who were just starting to care are now asking what exactly they signed up for. Bueckers has defended herself, saying she did nothing, but the damage is already done. Instead of highlighting future Olympic dreams or international dominance, the headlines are focused on disputes, clashes, and chaos. That's not exactly the brand image sponsors want to buy into, especially not during a potential labor war. Lawson, now facing criticism over how she handled the Bueckers incident, adds another layer of instability. As a respected figure in women's basketball, her involvement should have represented calm. Instead, it's fueled whispers of disorganization within the national program and, by extension, the league. If internal tensions can't be managed, what hope is there for navigating a labor crisis? Her role in the league's larger struggle is emblematic of the disconnect between leadership and talent. When coaches, commissioners, and executives send mixed signals, it's the players and fans who pay the price. Alyssa Thomas, one of the league's most consistent performers, has taken a harder line. She's been vocal about the fact that players aren't just looking for raises, they want structural changes. And while her points resonate with many inside the locker rooms, outside the league bubble, fans and sponsors aren't as convinced. Thomas argues that the league has leaned on player loyalty for too long. But the truth is, fans are growing skeptical. When they hear about strike threats during a moment of unprecedented hype, it doesn't sound revolutionary. It sounds risky. And for many, it's becoming harder to sympathize with a group that's perceived as pushing too hard, too fast. Even Adam Silver, who usually stays out of WNBA day-to-day drama, has weighed in indirectly. The NBA's commissioner has long supported the league, offering financial backing and resources. But make no mistake, he runs a business, not a charity. The NBA pours money into the WNBA, and if the economics don't improve, that relationship could change. Silver's silence on the 50-50 split proposal says a lot. In the NBA, that model works because there's actual revenue to share. Billions of it. In the WNBA, the math just doesn't add up. If the owners gave in to the players' demands, the league wouldn't break even. It would collapse. That's the kind of pressure hanging over these talks. On the court, the league has never looked better. Attendance is up, TV deals are getting better, and young stars are bringing in new fans. But behind the scenes, it's tense. Talks have stalled. Owners are reportedly exploring backup plans, including filling rosters with rookies or overseas talent if a strike happens. And let's be clear, that's not an empty threat. These owners are business people. If push comes to shove, they might let the strike happen and rebuild without the union's top voices. Will the product suffer? Definitely. But to some, survival matters more than legacy, especially when the league has yet to turn a real profit in over 2 decades. Even veterans like Cheryl Reeve are stuck in the crossfire. As one of the most respected coaches in the league, she's trying to keep her team focused, but the tension is everywhere. Players are distracted, coaches are frustrated, and fans? They're confused. Just when people were starting to pay attention to women's basketball for the right reasons, the narrative has shifted, and not in a good way. Reeve has seen the ups and downs of this league, but this moment feels different. The stakes aren't just high, they're existential. If the strike goes forward, it won't be a minor setback. It could send the WNBA back to square one, unraveling the very progress players worked so hard to achieve. Even breakout role players like Lexi Hull are caught in the middle. She's not part of the old guard, but she's not a rookie either. She's in that crucial middle space, rising in value, but not a household name. For players like Hull, this battle isn't just about future salaries, it's about survival. If the league pivots to cheaper international players or rookie-heavy rosters, mid-tier athletes might be the first to go. The union's gamble assumes solidarity from top to bottom, but the reality is murkier. Not every player has $1 million brand or endorsement deal to fall back on. Some need the league to stay afloat just to pay rent. And that's where the unrivaled league rumor mill starts spinning. Some believe the union's hardline stance is tied to backdoor ambitions, building a competing league similar to what's been floated by former players and investors. The idea of starting fresh with player-led control and a modern revenue model is tempting, but it's also incredibly risky. The WNBA may not be profitable, but it exists. It has media deals, a fan base, and infrastructure. Starting over from scratch? That's not empowerment. That's gambling with the future of an entire sport. And if the current league collapses, there's no guarantee fans will follow the players to something new. Brittany Griner, one of the league's most recognizable veterans, has weighed in with caution. She's no stranger to fighting for respect in the sport, but even she seems wary of the fallout this battle could bring. Griner understands that a league without leverage is just a dream, and dreams don't pay salaries. Her take mirrors what a lot of players feel but won't say out loud, that this might not be the moment to go all in. That maybe, just maybe, securing what's already on the table, the raises, the new CBA improvements, the increased visibility, is a smarter path forward. But when emotions run this high, logic rarely wins the room. Sophie Cunningham has emerged as a surprising voice of balance. She's passionate, no doubt, but she's also pragmatic. In several recent comments, she's tried to walk the tightrope between solidarity and sustainability. She doesn't want to betray her peers, but she also knows fans are growing restless. Sophie's remarks boil down to one message: protect the progress. Because the truth is, the WNBA was finally getting its moment. Cunningham knows that a mass walkout doesn't just risk losing games. It risks losing fans who are finally starting to care. That kind of trust doesn't come back overnight. On the other side, Eriko Gunbowl isn't backing down. She's part of a group that's pushing hard for the 50-50 split, viewing this moment as a once-in-a-generation shot at changing the game forever. To her, and many others, compromise feels like giving in to the same excuses the league's been feeding players for decades. Gunbowl isn't naive. She knows the financials are tight. But she also believes that if the league is ever going to turn the corner, it needs to take risks. Her camp argues that visibility without compensation is exploitation. That growth without redistribution is just rebranding old inequality. But the question still looms. Can a league survive that kind of pressure? Kathy Engelbert and Caitlin Clark. Kathy Engelbert and Caitlin Clark were once the golden duo, the commissioner and the prodigy, walking hand in hand into the league's new era. But now, their alignment seems fractured, not because of animosity, but because of tension. Clark hasn't openly criticized the league, but her absence from a union's public campaign speaks volumes. Clark's team knows that she represents something bigger: a future TV deal, mainstream fan appeal, national advertisers. If she were to back the strike, the stakes would triple overnight. And maybe that's why she's staying quiet. For someone who's barely started her professional career, being at the center of a labor movement isn't exactly in the rookie playbook. And yet, you can see it on her face. The weight of expectation. The pressure to lead a revolution she didn't sign up for. Social media is already turning on her for not taking a stand, as if her entire role in this league hinges on activism over basketball. It's exhausting and unfair. Clark came here to play, to win, to build. But now she's stuck in a war between business models and bargaining tactics. If she says nothing, she's seen as complicit. If she sides with the league, she's labeled a sellout. Either way, she loses. And as the noise grows louder, you can feel it starting to chip away at the very joy that brought her here. Behind closed doors, Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert are strategizing. They know the players hold emotional power, but the league holds operational power. The sponsors, the broadcasters, the infrastructure, they all flow through the league offices. If push comes to shove, they're prepared to weather a walkout. What's being discussed, according to sources close to the talks, isn't just how to avoid a strike, but how to survive one. Could they run a season with replacement players? Could they pivot to highlight rookie talent and international stars? These aren't empty hypotheticals. They're contingency plans. Because if the players walk, the league isn't guaranteed to wait. Meanwhile, Paige Bueckers is back on the court, but the drama from her suspension still lingers. Her clash with Kara Lawson may have been isolated, but it's symbolic of something deeper, the fraying edges of a league trying to grow faster than its foundation allows. Paige was supposed to be the next face of women's basketball, but right now, even her storyline is caught in the chaos. Fans want to root for her, but the off-court noise is drowning out the talent. That's the risk this whole situation poses, that the product, the actual basketball, becomes secondary to boardroom battles. In her latest press conference, Caitlin Clark looked drained, not physically, but emotionally. She fielded more questions about revenue splits and labor talks than anything related to her actual performance on the court. Reporters didn't want to talk about her three-point shooting or her insane assist-to-turnover ratio. They wanted a quote, a headline, a soundbite. Clark, as usual, played it safe. She thanked her teammates, credited the fans, and dodged the politics. But it's clear the pressure is mounting. The league wants her to lead without telling her how. The union wants her voice, the media wants a story, and fans want reassurance. The WNBA's brightest star is stuck navigating a labor crisis she didn't create, and it's starting to show. Meanwhile, the product on the floor is still elite. The level of play has never been higher. Every night brings buzzer beaters, rivalries, and highlight reels worthy of prime time. Yet that's not what's trending. The strike threat dominates headlines. And the longer this standoff lasts, the more disconnected casual fans feel. Instead of leaning into the momentum, the league finds itself stuck in PR damage control. The games continue, but the mood has shifted. It's hard to enjoy the beauty of a perfectly executed fast break when the crowd's wondering if this might be the last game for a while. Everyone's holding their breath, waiting to see who blinks first. Kathy Engelbert has remained firm in public, echoing a message that owners are whispering in private. The league is growing, but it's not there yet. She's emphasized investments in player marketing, travel upgrades, and expanded media coverage. She says the money is being spent, just not in ways that players seem to value. To Engelbert, the strike talk is reckless. From her view, the league is finally becoming sustainable, and this moment was supposed to be about celebrating that progress, not tearing it all down. Her critics call her tone deaf. Her supporters say she's realistic. But no one questions this. The weight of the entire league now rests on her ability to broker peace without making promises she can't afford to keep. And just when Clark thought she could focus on basketball, the viral clips start again. Another hard foul. Another debate about whether she's being targeted. Her getting knocked to the floor becomes a national conversation again. But this time, the context is different. Fans aren't just debating flagrant fouls. They're wondering if resentment is building inside the league. Resentment against the attention Clark gets, against the pressure she's under, against the unspoken reality that she represents the league's future, even if not everyone agrees with it. Every shove, every bump, every replay carries new weight in a league already teetering on instability. When Clark faced off against Paige Bueckers, it should have been a celebration, two generational talents sharing the court. But instead, it became a showdown with undertones of drama. Not because of their play, that was brilliant, but because of everything swirling around them. The matchup drew viewers, sure. But the real story wasn't what happened on the scoreboard. It was what didn't happen. No shared endorsements, no post-game photo ops, no unity. Just silence. And in a moment when the league desperately needs its stars aligned, the lack of camaraderie spoke louder than any stat line. Then came the Ice Cube saga. Rumors swirled about offers to Clark and Reese from his Big Three league, throwing another layer of chaos into an already volatile moment. Whether those offers were real or PR stunts didn't matter. They grabbed headlines and reignited debates. Reese, Clark, and Cube suddenly became unwilling characters in a story about power, autonomy, and who really controls women's basketball. The WNBA felt the heat instantly. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about who could offer players the platform they deserve. And in that framing, the league looked vulnerable. Kelsey Mitchell tried to reel the conversation back in during a recent interview. She spoke honestly about what players want: fairness, respect, and a league that listens. She didn't demand millions. She didn't bash the owners. She simply laid it out. Players are tired of being told to wait their turn. Her words resonated because they weren't radical. They were real. But realism doesn't always move negotiations. And while her voice added nuance to the conversation, the bigger battle raged on without compromise. The headlines still screamed strike. The tension still grew. In Dallas, Eric Ogunbowl kept showing up and showing out. Game after game, she put up numbers, sank clutch shots, and did her part. But when the cameras came off, she didn't mince words. She wanted a better deal. She believes the players deserve it, and she's willing to fight for it, no matter how long it takes. Her fans love her for that fire. But others worry, will that fire burn the league down? Is the cause noble, but the method dangerous? Ogunbowl doesn't think so. To her, the only risk is doing nothing. But behind her confidence, the league hears warning bells. In a recent Aces versus Mercury showdown, the arena was packed. The energy was electric. The game delivered everything the league wants to showcase: star power, athleticism, drama. But outside the arena, chatter was growing louder. What happens if this momentum dies? That's the cruel paradox. The league is finally what fans wanted: competitive, compelling, marketable. But if this standoff explodes into a full-blown strike, none of it matters. The cameras will turn off. The buzz will fade, and years of effort could vanish overnight. That's what's really on the line here. Even rising stars like Aaliyah Boston feel the ripple effects. She's having a breakout season, stepping into her own spotlight. But with every win, there's uncertainty. What if the season gets cut short? What if fans stop tuning in because they're tired of drama? She didn't ask for any of this. She just wanted to play. Boston represents the next generation: talented, driven, media savvy. The league needs her, but also needs stability. And if the strike happens, players like her lose out most. Not because they don't support the cause, but because they're stuck in a battle where the outcome is far from certain. So, where does this leave us? A league on the edge, players holding the line, and fans stuck in the middle, just wanted to watch the game they love without all the noise. What started as a golden era for the WNBA now feels like a storm cloud that won't move. Every decision from here on out carries weight. Every headline matters. If this standoff ends in disaster, it won't just set the league back. It could erase the very progress that made 2024 historic. The players want more, the owners want stability, and the fans? They just want a future. One that doesn't get fumbled over pride, pressure, or poorly timed power plays. So what do you think? Is the league pushing forward or pulling itself apart? Drop your thoughts below, share this with someone following the drama, and hit subscribe if you're keeping your eye on the chaos.